Hi, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Talibah Zues, and the topic for today is predictive programming. So, with predictive programming, I'm not going to go into every single example of what's gone on out there, but what I want to do is touch on a few examples and then you can look up the rest yourself. What I want you to understand is a bit about how this works and why it's important to see what's going on in the world. So, first of all, Arthur Schopenhauer said, all truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed, then it is violently opposed, and then finally it's accepted as self-evident. Where have we seen this example? Well, Secco di Ascoli, astronomer and professor, was burnt alive by the church in 1327 for daring to suggest the world is round. The church has revised its earlier opinions and now believes that the earth is round. Three stages. Number 1, ridiculed. Number 2, violently opposed. Number 3, accepted as self-evident. Giordano Bruno, philosopher and dreamer, burnt at the stake by Rome in 1600 for daring to suggest the earth was round. Again, the same three stages. Predictive programming is a subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented by the powers that be. You show something to the subconscious mind. If you show people pictures of something before it happens, when it does happen, it's more easily accepted and more readily accepted. So, that's where movies come in. Movies are great for this kind of thing. Cartoons, news, etc. If a hurricane hit without you being aware of it at all, you'd be unprepared. But if the news was released and said that we possibly could have a hurricane, then when it does hit, it's not such a shock and you're more prepared for it. The brain subconscious is very powerful, but easily influenced by both images, sounds, and symbols. These images, sounds, symbols slip past your conscious mind. Right, so they slip past the gatekeeper at the door and they can impregnate the female part of your mind, and various ideas, etc. can grow within there. This type of exposure can also desensitize a person to negative stimuli like graphic violence. Movies have become more graphically violent over time, have become more sexual over time. The ratings have changed. At one point, the type of things that we see now on television, you would never see past, say, a 9 o'clock Watershed, and so forth. So let's crack on with the subject at hand. Seth MacFarlane, Family Guy creator. I don't know what this guy's deal is, but his show, Family Guy, that he's most famous for, is like an oracle. It has predicted certain things, major events, before they've happened. The Boston Marathon. Now, not a lot of people believe this to be true. Boston Marathon, staged by actors and so forth. It was predicted on the Family Guy before it took place. Robin Williams' death, predicted on the Family Guy before it takes place. As a matter of fact, this came out in the Mail Online. I've put this here verbatim. The BBC broadcast an episode of Family Guy about Robin Williams and a failed suicide attempt just minutes before it was revealed that the actor had been found hanged. They go on to say, an extraordinary coincidence saw the viewer Mail number 2 episode shown on BBC 3 between 11:25 and 11:45 p.m. on Monday, with the death announced by Reuters news agency at 11:56 p.m. Coincidence or what? As they said it, an extraordinary coincidence. So this is the way it works. It's not a case of whereby they say, hey, listen, by the way, Robin Williams is going to commit suicide, or they don't show a scene of him just committing suicide in the way that he did and so forth. It works more like this. Because remember, your subconscious mind can decode. A sketch in the episode called Fat Man and Robin sees Peter Griffin, the father in the US comedy, gain the power to turn everyone in his fictional city of Quahong into Williams by touching them. That already sounds weird. What kind of show is that? But that's by the by. So he gets so crazy about this that he wants to commit suicide. Peter Griffin, the character in the show, and he tries to commit suicide, and the gun even turns into Robin Williams. There's a scene that shows a door with blood in it and a belt and so forth. Pretty eerie, if you ask me. Joan Rivers was also prophesized on the actual show as well. Her death was prophesized. The 7/7 bombings was prophesized also. The Caitlyn Jenner transformation from Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn Jenner was also prophesized on there also. And Paul Walker's death was prophesied in there also. And this is not the only things that prophesied, but these are like the major ones. And of course, there's the big one, 9/11. And if you want to know more about this, by all means, you can look this up yourself. There's a ton of videos on YouTube about predictive programming, showing exact examples, the clips, and so forth. For those that want to see that, by all means, look that up. Johnny Bravo. There's a show that aired that showed, as you see in the background, towers blowing up. It's a bit weird. Aired on the 27th of April 2001. For all the images they could have had in the background, why that one? The Matrix. If you've seen The Matrix, you probably didn't notice this, but your subconscious would have noticed this. But the passport, Neo's passport, the date on it is September the 11th. Terminator 2. The height is 9/11. In fact, he even says caution, 9/11. The Gremlins. If you've seen the Gremlins, look at the mics of the reporters. 9/11. Very subliminal, but it's there. Back to the Future. If you've seen Back to the Future actually predicted also the Twin Towers. So there's scenes in it that show 9/11. There's also the Twin Pines Motel, which then turned to the Lone Pines Motel after the terrorist assassination on the Doctor. So by all means, look into that also. You can see more about it. I'm not going to go into every single clip here because that's not exactly what this is about. It's to introduce you to predictive programming, but what I want you to do is to take the element, understand there's magic there, but use it for yourself. The Simpsons, 9/11 again, in action. Simpsons predicts some more minor things, but there's a few predictions that took place in The Simpsons. One was the voting machine that changed the vote from Barack Obama to Mitt Romney, and that was in 2008. It happened in 2012. There was a lemon tree episode. And then in 2013, the headline reads in Houston how a bizarre theft in an Oak Forest neighborhood of Houston has left neighbors scratching their heads where a lemon tree was stolen. There's the one where they have a baby translator that can tell you what your baby's thinking when it cries. And then in 2013, this was released. There's the one where Guitar Hero is released in 2005. Yet Homer is given, I believe it's Homer or Bart, is given a jacket with Guitar Hero on it. The other one where Homer's stealing cooking grease to turn into quick cash, and then the headline reads, thieves stealing used cooking grease turn into quick cash in 2013. And there's one Lisa's wedding where video phones are introduced. Yeah, video phones didn't come out until 2010. And I can see how some of this can be argued as coincidental. But I want you to remember one thing as well. Magic isn't a case of you don't perform magic and a big puff of smoke appears and whatever it is that you've wanted to magic appears. It's where a series of coincidences happen. And as far as I'm concerned, these are just far too many coincidences taking place. And this is only a fraction of the predictions they put out there. There's a lot more. I'm just giving you a fraction here. Manchurian Candidate. If you haven't seen this movie, this is a really good movie, and it tells a story about how they've taken these soldiers and they've done these experiments on them, and now they're able to use a certain type of hypnosis to have these soldiers perform a particular action, such as an assassination, at a later date by using certain triggers. In the Dark Knight, on the map, Sandy Hook is the only thing that you can see. It reveals Sandy Hook. You can't see anything else but Sandy Hook. At the premiere of The Dark Knight, outside of the cinema, there's a shooting where 14 people get shot. So think about that. Sandy Hook on the map and the shooting. Then we have the Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings. It does smell a little bit like the Manchurian Candidate. In my hypersigil video, I spoke about how Grant Morrison had come to experience the things that he created in his comics, stories, and met the types of women that he created in his comics and so forth. This is all magic. We're plugged into a collective consciousness. We're being fed these things from the media. When we watch these shows, our brain goes into what's known as alpha state from the flicker rate, and therefore our subconscious mind can then be programmed and instilled with the things that we're being shown. Hollywood. Why do they call it Hollywood? Well, the actual magician's wand is made from the wood from the holly tree. The holly wand. Hollywood, holly wand, Hollywood. All a play on words. But when you understand magic and manipulation and so forth a bit more, then you can see why it makes sense why this would be used. And etymology is a study of words, something worth looking into. This particular image here is of the church. The church has done a great job of teaching us to stay away from things like magic and astrology and so forth. Let's say we just did something for a second, a little experiment. If we took the dollar bill and we started drawing shapes on it, we'd find certain patterns. If we have a look at this here, we can see that there's a triangle by joining the 3 circles. It's pretty blatantly obvious once you do this. And remember, our subconscious mind doesn't need to see the actual triangle. It already will establish and distinguish that simple 3 circles as being a triangle. We put it in a circle, we have a sigil. If we join the hands and feet, now we have the Star of David. So when I do a video on astrotheology, you'll see how stories in the Bible are actually all based off of the planets, with Jesus being the Saviour, Saturn being Satan, the 6th planet, Venus is Lucifer, and so forth. Now, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to go off on a rant on a subject that's completely unrelated. However, I just don't believe it's completely unrelated. I believe all these things are interrelated, including astrology, numerology, so forth, hypnosis, all these kind of things, magic. We've been told to stay away from all these kind of things. However, they're all being used against us anyway, so we may as well look into them. And we've been told to stay away from them because they're devil worship. But actually, what if they're not? What if all these things we're being told is not true? Even when we look at things like the Illuminati, what if it's simply a case whereby it's not quite true? What if they're just using energies in a certain way and we can use those energies in a certain way too, like alchemy? Food for thought here. The 7 Hermetic principles is what we're looking into. In the Kabbalion, there's a principle 2 in the Kabbalion is as above, so below, as below, so above, which is relating to the stars and the planets above and so forth. So when I do a video on astrotheology, I'll touch on that. In the meantime, Epiphany Lectures and Michael Tsurian are well worth looking at. I look at a lot of their videos and they explain it in a really good way that's really understandable as well. Santos Bonacci is another one you should listen to as well. So I'm going to close off. Eric Arthur Blair, best known as George Orwell and author of 1984, said, "In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." And we are living in a time of universal deceit. And the fact is, there's information out there and you can find it for yourself. The Library of Alexandria was burnt down, all information taken with it. But you can yourself look into these things anyway. There's a lot of information out there and start to see the truth for yourself. Remember, everything is within. So we can all find this. Quieten your mind, be still, meditate. Find a time to look into yourself, which is really important. So I'm going to close off here, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope it's been good. Please comment, like, subscribe, share. Until next time, peace out, God bless, and thanks for watching.